A breakthrough for scientists after they had a 20-minute conversation with a humpback whale.
An animal bigger than a school bus with perhaps the most sophisticated form of communication that has ever existed.
Sperm whales make vowels, real ones. The aw in father, the ee in sea, the oi in boy, produced a mile beneath the surface in total darkness by a creature whose evolutionary line split from ours hundreds of millions of years ago.
These weren't the typical harmonious whale songs that I'd been accustomed to. These sounded more like digital data transfer.
The acoustic features that define human speech, the ones every linguistics textbook calls uniquely ours, have been forming in the throats of whales for 30 million years. No one caught it because no one was looking for it. The only reason anyone knows now is because a single AI model was finally pointed at the right 9,000 recordings. And the output on the screen matched the building blocks of human language so precisely that the researchers who saw it are still trying to explain how that is biologically possible. Project CD and the Hallway.
What we found is that, in a sense, their codas, these groups of clicks, are very similar to human vowels.
For decades, the consensus on sperm whale communication was settled. The animals produced rapid clicks called codas. Science had cataloged about 21 of them, and each one was treated like a traffic light with a fixed meaning, a warning, a contact call, a direction signal. That framing was not just wrong, it was one of the most spectacular miscalculations in modern biology. And the way it collapsed began with a cracked office door at Harvard. David Gruber was reviewing old sperm whale recordings from the Caribbean, audio he had collected almost by accident while studying jellyfish. The clicks clattered through his headphones like Morse code played underwater. Background noise, familiar. The kind of sound you stop hearing. Then Shafi Goldwasser walked past his open door. Goldwasser is an MIT cryptographer and a Turing Award winner. Her entire career has been spent breaking encrypted systems, the kind governments build to hide state secrets. She stopped. She listened for a few seconds. Then she said one thing. That sounds like Morse code. Have you tried running it through machine learning? Gruber had not. No one had. Her question was not casual curiosity. It was professional, instinct from a specialist in hidden structure. To her trained ear, those clicks were not random noise. They were a code that had simply never been handed to a decoder. That single sentence pulled in a third collaborator, AI researcher Michael Bronstein, who pointed out that the same class of deep learning, now powering large language models, could, in theory, be aimed at animal communication. All the project needed was enough training data. Enough became the obsession. In 2020, that hallway conversation became Project CETI, the Cetacean Translation Initiative, funded by the TED Audacious Project and built through a partnership between MIT, Harvard, UC Berkeley, and more than a dozen other institutions. The team chose Dominica as a permanent base for one reason. Off this Caribbean island, multi-generational sperm whale families return year after year. Individual animals are known by name. Their matriarchs are identified. Their social hierarchies have been mapped through decades of surface observation. It was the closest thing marine biology had to a stable neighborhood, a community where the researchers already knew who was related to who spent time with whom, and which calves belonged to which mothers. Then the team went further than any whale study in history. They installed permanent hydrophone arrays along migration routes. They attached biologger tags directly to whale skin using suction cups, each one carrying 3 synchronized microphones, capable of distinguishing individual voices inside a group conversation, plus depth sensors, GPS, and accelerometers tracking body movement to fractions of a degree. The goal was not just to hear the whales, it was to capture everything a word needs to be understood. Who is speaking, who they are speaking to, what they are doing in that exact second, what the ocean is doing around them. Every variable that could give sound a meaning was being logged at the same time. 9,000 recordings went into the system. The same class of deep learning AI that powers the most advanced language models on Earth went to work. Researchers had never thrown this much compute at an animal communication problem before. The previous generation of whale studies had used a few hundred recordings and manual analysis. Project CETI flipped that completely. A dataset large enough to train a modern AI, cross-referenced against one of the longest continuous behavioral records of any wild animal on the planet. And what came back rewrote the textbooks in a single afternoon. The 156 and the architecture.
The next 5 years, our team of AI specialists, roboticists, linguists, and marine biologists aim to use the most cutting-edge technologies to make contact with another species.
The AI did not find 21 codas. It found 156. Think about what that jump alone means. The old count treated sperm whale communication like a small fixed vocabulary, about the size of a traffic sign collection. The new count is closer to a phonetic inventory, more than 7 times larger than what the field had accepted. And the recordings the AI analyzed did not even cover every sperm whale. Clan on Earth. The real number is almost certainly higher. The number mattered, but what was inside those 156 units mattered more. Each coda had internal structure, tempo variations, rhythm shifts, ornamentation clicks layered in recurring patterns. A faster variant and a slower variant of the same base unit carried different weight. A click added at the front of a sequence changed what followed. These elements were not decorative. They were not random. They behaved exactly the way phonemes behave in human language. Modular units, combined according to rules. Generating meaning no single unit carries on its own. The whales were not transmitting a fixed menu of preset signals. They were building communication dynamically from a modular phonetic system, which is the same architecture that underlies every human language ever documented. English makes this concrete. English builds millions of words from only 44 basic sounds. Take one of those sounds away and thousands of words vanish. Change a rule about how 2 sounds combine and new words become possible. Sperm whales were operating on the same principle. A finite acoustic inventory producing a generative system with effectively unlimited expressive range. The building blocks were clicks. The grammar was real. The output was a communication space researchers were only beginning to map. An MIT scientist on the team told reporters the results showed far more complexity than anyone had believed and were challenging the current state of the art in beliefs about the animal world. That is the most understated sentence in modern biology. Because this was not a small update to existing knowledge. It was a structural demolition of the assumption that nothing in the animal kingdom had ever independently evolved anything resembling the architecture of human language, except something had. And it had been doing it a mile beneath the surface for 30 million years. Then a linguist at UC Berkeley ran a second analysis on the same recordings. He was not looking at sequences. He was looking at individual clicks. And what he found is the part the field is still trying to explain. The vowels.
Before they hunt and when they socialize. So we think that there might be more meaning to their communication.
His name is Gasper Begas. Instead of mapping click patterns at the sequence level, the way the first team had, he zoomed all the way in. He examined the acoustic properties of individual clicks at the most granular resolution modern phonetics equipment allows. The kind of analysis normally used to study the fine detail of human speech sounds in a lab. What he found made the foundational assumptions of his field shudder. The whales were producing vowel sounds, not vowel-like sounds, actual vowels. The ah vowel, as in father. The ee vowel, as in see. Diphthongs, those gliding double vowel combinations like the oi in boy. The defining acoustic features of human spoken language had independently evolved inside a creature living in complete darkness under thousands of pounds of water pressure. Vowels are not a casual category of sound. They are precise, controlled modulations of frequency through specialized vocal anatomy. They require evolved vocal machinery, specific musculature, and the neural capacity to control it with intention. That combination was considered uniquely human, a product of evolutionary pressures specific to our lineage, in our environment, on our timeline. Begas described the finding plainly. Researchers used to think of whale communication as a kind of Morse code. These new results show the calls are more like very, very slow vowels, a complexity that approaches human language. Approaching human language from a species that developed its communication system in a completely different sensory world, along an independent evolutionary path, with no shared ancestor for hundreds of millions of years. The human vocal tract evolved over millions of years of selective pressure towards speech. a descended larynx, specific tongue musculature, airflow shaped for resonance. We evolved toward vowels. Sperm whales arrived at the same place from the opposite direction, through echolocation clicks refined by an environment where high-frequency precision decides whether you eat or starve. They did not evolve toward language the way we did. They evolved toward something that, when analyzed by the most advanced acoustic equipment available, looks functionally identical. This is convergent evolution at the most specific level anyone has ever documented. Two separate lineages arriving at the same complex solution through entirely different routes. Birds and bats both fly, and that is convergent evolution. Eyes evolved independently more than 40 times across the tree of life, and that is convergent evolution. But a flying animal is not a speaking one, and an eye is not a sentence. Convergent evolution of flight tells us flight is useful. Convergent evolution of vowels tells us language might be too, in a way biology has never confirmed before. When that happens with something as narrow as the ah vowel and the e vowel, the only interpretation that makes scientific sense is unsettling. Vowel-based communication is not an accident of human anatomy. It is a feature of intelligence itself. The idea that language, vowels, phonemes, grammar, and context were exclusively ours was one of the last clean lines separating human cognition from everything else alive on this planet. The vowels did not challenge that line. They erased the foundation it was drawn on. If your brain just did what mine did when I read that for the first time, hit subscribe, because the next finding is the one that stopped the room. Because evolving the components of language in isolation is one thing. Using them in real time, in a conversation, with other individuals who talk back, is something else entirely. The conversations.
These animals could be the most intelligent beings on this planet. They have a neocortex and spindle cells, structure that in humans control higher order thoughts, emotions, memory, language, and love.
The whales do not just possess the structural components, they use them contextually. The same individual whale produces different codas, depending on who it is addressing, what the other whale just said, and what is happening in the immediate environment. That is not a signal system with fixed inputs and outputs. That is pragmatic language use. Communication deployed responsively in real time, calibrated to a shifting social situation. It is the same flexibility humans show when they speak differently to a child than to a colleague, or soften a message depending on who is listening. Shane Jarrow has spent 13 years alongside the sperm whale families of Dominica. He knows the individuals, he knows the calves. He has watched the same animals grow up, become mothers, lose relatives, and teach the next generation. He has described watching these interactions unfold from the surface and finding it almost impossible not to see cousins playing while chatting, or a mother handing her calf to a babysitter and exchanging what looks for all the world like a few parting words before diving deep to hunt. The exchanges can last up to an hour. Multiple whales overlap, respond, build on each other. There is measurable conversational timing, rhythm, turn-taking that occasionally breaks down when two whales click at the same time, which in sperm whale culture seems to be socially acceptable, the way interrupting is among close family. Producing the right coda for the right whale in the right moment requires more than memory and acoustic control. It requires a theory of mind, an awareness that the other individual has a perspective different from your own, and that what you say should be calibrated to reach that specific listener. That capacity was once considered uniquely human. Researchers studying sperm whales are no longer certain that framing holds. There are dominant voices and quieter ones. Exchanges that look like disagreements. Exchanges that look like reassurances. Interactions that occur only between specific individuals, and others that involve the whole family. The social architecture visible at the surface matches the acoustic patterns measurable below. The conversations are not random, they are structured around relationships. And the brains sustaining those conversations are the largest of any animal on Earth, 6 times the mass of a human brain, housed inside creatures that live in matrilineal families with multi-generational cultural traditions passed from grandmother to mother to calf across centuries. There are family-specific click dialects, passed down and maintained across clans that never mix with each other. There are conversations that include the whole pod, and quiet exchanges between just 2 individuals while the rest of the family swims nearby. These are not simple animals. They never were. Science was simply never listening closely enough. What the AI has not decoded.
I became interested in sperm whales when I heard their sounds. They sounded like they were coming from another universe, a siren song being broadcast from the darkest reaches of the sea.
Then comes the hard part. Structure is not meaning, not yet. The AI has mapped the grammar, it has not translated a single word. The phonetic inventory has been identified, the combinatorial. Rules have been modeled, the vowels have been cataloged. Individual whales have been profiled by their acoustic signatures. Conversational patterns between family members have been documented across years of recording. All of that is real, verified, peer-reviewed. What remains completely unknown is what any of it actually says. What does a specific coda sequence mean? What changes in meaning when the tempo rises or falls? What does it mean when a mother clicks a long sequence to her calf versus when a matriarch addresses the whole group? What does a specific variant mean when it is produced alone versus when it is produced in response to another whale? Nobody knows. And the distance between knowing the architecture of a language and knowing what it is saying is the entire next phase of the project. Meaning requires correlation. It requires building a data set deep enough that patterns finally emerge between specific vocalizations and specific observable behaviors, matching what is said to what is visibly happening in that exact moment. A whale produces it. Next generation biologger tags are logging 3 channels of audio alongside depth, GPS, body orientation, and the vocalizations of every nearby whale simultaneously, all feeding into a growing behavioral archive that researchers are cross-referencing against decades of observation. The dataset grows every week the equipment is in the water. Every new hour of recording makes the dictionary slightly less blank, but the dictionary is still mostly blank. And there is one fact about how long this has been going on that makes the silence of the last century feel heavier than anything the AI has decoded so far. The matriarchs. A sperm whale can live 70 years. The matriarch of a family alive in the Caribbean today may have been born before modern sonar existed. She has spent her entire life communicating with her family in a system that science only just admitted might be a real language. Whatever she has said, across those decades, whatever she warned her pod about, whatever she taught the young ones about how the world works, all of it happened in a language humans could not read. She has watched the ocean change from the inside in ways no human has ever documented. She has watched ships appear where there had been none. She has heard the noise of industrial shipping flood the acoustic space her family had used for generations. She has lost relatives to holes she could hear coming and could not outrun. She has felt the water warm. She has felt the prey move. She has carried every one of those experiences in whatever internal record her 6 times human-sized brain keeps. And through all of it, she was talking. To her sisters, to her daughters, to her granddaughters, to a calf born last year who has never known an ocean that was quiet. She has dialects the researchers can identify. She has relationships they have mapped. She has a name in the Dominica database, assigned by people who have watched her surface for years without ever understanding a single word she was saying. Her daughter has a name too. So does her granddaughter. 3 generations, logged and photographed, and not one of their sentences read. Somewhere in the growing archive of her voice are the first sentences she ever said to her mother, decades before the word CETI existed. Somewhere in it are the things she said yesterday. Somewhere in it is whatever she is saying right now, tonight. A mile under the surface off an island, she has been returning to her entire life. The AI is still running. The data keeps arriving. Project CETI has the alphabet now. It has the vowels. It has the grammar. What it does not have yet is the moment a researcher sits down in front of a screen and sees, for the first time, a sentence. She has been speaking for 70 years to people who could not hear her in a language that was there the entire time. What has she been saying for 70 years? What do you think the first translated sentence is going to be? Drop it in the comments. I read them. And I want to know what you think comes out of that recording first. Subscribe right now, because the moment Project CETI decodes the first full sentence, you want to be here when that video goes up. And if this one got under your skin, the next one is already waiting, and it hits harder.